yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business and what got you into crypto. Shall we start with you, Grant?
So my name's Grant Colford. We're starting a new exchange here in Australia, so we've launched a RFQ platform about 2 weeks ago. Our limit order book exchange will be another 2 weeks away. We'll have Aussie dollar pairs, US dollar pairs, tether pairs, top 5 to start with, and then we're going to branch out into offering a derivatives offering. We also have fully insured custody, which will be a free offering. So if you want to leave the Bitcoin with us, we'll look after it. What got me into crypto? So I was a proprietary trader at the time. So in 2011, I was trading a lot of gold, euro, and S&P futures at the time, and there was Bitcoin. And obviously, everyone thought, well, the euro looks like it was going to collapse at the time, and Bitcoin looked like a natural hedge for people to move their money into. That's ever since been following since then, so 2011.
Great. Alex? If the light's on, it's not working. Oh.
Check now.
Hello? Hello? Are you on?
I think I'm working now.
Yes. Alex, welcome.
Thanks, David. Thanks everyone for coming. So, I guess hands up who's a Nuggets News subscriber? Fair few. And who's in our Facebook community? Awesome, fair few. Thanks for coming, guys. So, for those that don't know, we're Australia's largest provider of free and premium education. I was a pharmacist by trade and then lost a lot of money in the GFC when I was very young. When my parents gave me some shares, and I started to learn about investing. Then I went down that rabbit hole and had a bit of a gold and silver bug once you learn about how money works and how bad the system is. Then I found Bitcoin in 2012 and fell down that bigger rabbit hole. And then I was annoying my friends and family for a fair while, and then in 2017 lots of other people started asking about it, so that's when we started making YouTube videos, and we've done a video every day for 2.5 years now. We've got a newsletter, a Facebook community, free online resources, so yeah, we do a bit of everything these days.
Great. Lasenka?
So for me, one of my best friends told me about Bitcoin in 2012, and we tried to buy some, and it was really, really difficult. So back in 2012, what we had to do is to set up an account with the Japanese exchange. It took 6 weeks. It took 2 to 3 weeks to get money there. We had to send AUD to Japan, so that got converted at about 6%. And then when you finally got your account set up and your money onto the platform, it often went down. And one of those times it didn't come back up. So back then, my friends Adrian and Adam, they were really good at building large-scale enterprise architecture, and my background was building regulated financial services businesses. So we thought, hey, we could do something here, and then we built what today is Independent Reserve, and we're a almost 7-year-old order book exchange. We've got about 120,000 customers. But our idea was to make it really easy, simple, secure and reliable for Australian and New Zealand customers to buy, hold, sell crypto. And the dream is still alive.
Go the dream. Caleb? Oh, share it.
I got into Bitcoin because of my dentist. So I come from Malaysia. I'm not sure if any of you have heard, but our former Prime Minister was involved with a 1MBB scandal where he siphoned off over $8 billion of US dollars from taxpayers' money. Back then, we knew he was corrupt. We could see our currency declining, but there was nothing we could do about it. He had control of the courts, he had control of the military. And so I think at that time, many people saw Bitcoin as that hedge, as we saw our currency falling apart. Thank God today, there was a bit of a social movement. He's been voted out. He's probably going to jail. But it's an incredible story how the large banks, Goldman Sachs was involved in helping launder a lot of that money. I went to fund Leonardo DiCaprio's gambling habits in Vegas. If funded Miranda's Hers jewelry collection for a while. I'm serious. Go read it up. It's an amazing story. A 1MBB scandal. And so I guess that's how I saw Bitcoin as something a little bit different and a hedge for the everyday people.
Great. Excellent. And myself, one of my ex-employees rang me up one day and said, hey, you've been posting all this stuff about blockchain. And I said, yeah, because I'm interested, because there's got to be some money to be made in this latest thing that's revolutionising the world, Web 3.0, blah, 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 because I own a recruitment company in technology. And he said, no, have you invested in any of these altcoins, done some ICOs? I said, no, I haven't at all. Anyway, so I caught up with a coffee with him, and then the next day I realised that he was trying to tell me that I needed to read these white papers, and I can't really read much more than one paragraph. So I decided to start a meetup, and that's how I got into crypto. Okay, cool. So how many people here have read Satoshi's white paper? Really? Awesome, that's great. So you all know what a blockchain is? Yeah, cool. Does anyone not know? Okay. Has anyone heard of Facebook's Libra coin? Has anyone not heard of it? Okay. So we all know what ICOs are, we all know what IEOs are? Great. Okay. So there you go. We've in a well-educated audience here, guys, just to give you an idea. So let's open up some questions. Caleb, I wanted to ask you what it was like, I assume, leaving a steady paid job to launch yourself into a blockchain startup a couple of years ago, was it? Yeah. Do you want to give us a summary of what that was like?
It's crazy. So the startup world is really very volatile. There's so much happening. You're trying to work with limited resources and limited time, trying to compete with large corporations. Like we're building an online travel agency. We're trying to compete with Booking.com. We're trying to compete with Expedia. It's really, really hard. And at the same time, you're limited by resources. So I would say corporate life, before this, I was working as a commercial advisor for Shell. It was boring as bad shit. This is far more interesting, but a crypto startup is like a startup on steroids. It's been really, really hard, but I think I have a really good team. I just like to thank my team. You've seen some of those guys with the t-shirts around. So the team have been amazing. They help organize this event. They work really hard on our startup. And I would say, but for the team, we would not have been where we are today. Guys worked for me right 2 years ago. They're still here today, and they believe in the project even before we got funding. So I'm very, very thankful for all those guys who are here with me today.
Great. So, is there people in this audience that are got their own startup? Many? Well, there's a few enough to ask this question. So Caleb, just a quick question. How was it securing funding? Was it easy, hard, and tell us a little bit more about that experience.
Seeking funding is always hard. English is not my first language. I'm not the best teacher, to be honest. But you know, you have to hustle a lot, and we had the opportunity to raise funds from Binance, and I think that made a big change for us. I can say I know CZ really well now. He's a really good operator. He really wants to build an ecosystem, and I was amazed how fast they move. I went all around pitching to VCs. I didn't have much luck there. But I caught up with the CFO from Binance, Wei, and he was the one that led the deal, and in 2 months we got funding, and we get freedom to operate how we like. And I think it's a whole different world from traditional VC funding where you get pressed and you get dragged along and they take advantage of your vulnerable position. So I'm very thankful for the funding Binance has provided to help us build the ecosystem.
That's great, yeah, big round of applause for Binance, thanks for that. While I've got you now, when's Sydney Airport?
We actually have merchants in Sydney Airport already, but I wasn't sure whether we want to launch because we don't have, to be honest, if you look at Brisbane Airport, we don't have a lot of transactions. We maybe get 1 or 2 transactions a day. Can I see a show of hands who has made tried to make a Bitcoin transaction at Sydney Airport? 2, 3. So,
I will tomorrow morning.
There you go. So,
fly out of Brisbane. So I'll make my time.
So I just want to say this. Look, there's not a lot of incentives to spend in crypto because everyone wants to hodl crypto. But I think the airport's a very important representation because that sign that said crypto and Bitcoin Cash and all the other signs there, it's very important for the community. It's 25 million people pass Brisbane Airport every year, and by supporting that sign, we get to show that. By supporting those merchants, we get to put that sign there to show 25 million people that this thing can be used in the real world. And that's why some people make transactions at Brisbane Airport, even though it's inconvenient, even though the staff fumble around with it. The technology is not that perfect. It's pay wave is just so much easier. But please support the initiative. If we get more transactions there, we can easily turn on Sydney Airport.
Excellent. Okay, let's change tacks here. Grant, this question's for you. You're mic'd up, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Facebook's LibraCoin. Do you think it's been a positive influence on the ecosystem? I'm pretty sure you don't need to explain to everyone what it was like, what it is. So yeah, what do you think about Facebook's LibraCoin?
Yeah, I think so far it's definitely had brought crypto into the mainstream. Whether or not it actually ends up even happening, I guess, is second order at the moment. It is definitely making people, the US government and other governments around the world take notice of it as a potential thing. And then obviously off the back of it now, we're awaiting the Chinese coin very closely. So I think it's only going to be positive.
Yeah, and Grant, Grant, do you think it's a threat to Bitcoin?
I don't think so. I think this came up the other week, and there was some good points around it that potentially the Libra basket ends up having Bitcoin in it, which would obviously only be good for Bitcoin. So, obviously they're very different purposes. Bitcoin will always remain decentralised. Obviously Libra is completely centralised. So, from that point of view, I don't think there's any real threat. So,
will it help take Bitcoin mainstream?
I think definitely, especially as we said, if we can get into the basket, it'll definitely, people will need to understand what Bitcoin is. If all of a sudden you end up with 100 Libra, and they say there is a mechanism where you can swap that back out into the basket, and all of a sudden out of that basket you get 0.0001 of a Bitcoin, well then you're going to have to know what it is. So from that point of view, it could be a massive adoption tool.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Katrina to the stage. And the lights go on. Woohoo! Katrina from Civic Ledger, could you tell us your name, where you work, and what you do, please?
And why you were late to start with?
I have a really good reason why I'm late. My name is Katrina Donaghy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a Brisbane company called Civic Ledger. We help governments build digital societies, or open government as we say. And I do have a good reason I was getting interviewed with a podcast in Italy, so dang. So I got out here as quickly as I could. So I'll be talking about Libra, or we're talking about...
You can talk about whatever you want.
No, I was just saying, on Friday I was at the OECD Global Blockchain Policy Forum, where Libra was sort of a key point of discussion, and it's really interesting how the advent of this project, as we say, because they made it very clear it's only a project. It's not a blockchain and it's not anything yet. It's just a project. But they really try to hustle the questions around trust. Jared was, the coup was often continually said he's not Facebook. But it does pose a number of questions around how do we actually support a system that is for profit when it's being built on TradeCoin, which is actually it was built for public good and now it's turned into a corporate coin. So the good side is that actually the central banks are now talking, but the problems that they want to talk about is how to solve payment systems rather than anything else at this point in time.
And Katrina, you've just flown back from Paris, you just mentioned, the OECD conference. Apart from the conversations around Libra, you mentioned something to me the other day about the central bank video that I needed to watch it. I've been a little bit too busy as well and I didn't get a chance, but do you want to explain to the audience what that was all about? Please.
So the central banks were there. This is the interesting thing about what's happening up in the northern part of the world. I think in Australia we work really hard to have these conversations, but we have them from a community level and we're wanting our politicians to engage with us. You go to the OECD, you have governors of reserve banks fully open themselves to get onto stages and tell the world what they're doing with digital currency. It's a completely different thing. Even though they are still very conservative, they are curious about the technology because they say it wants to solve payment problems, but they are still challenged by the paradox of being a central bank when it should be the retailing banking system that should be correcting their behaviour. So there was a lot of discussions about why, and three of the banks, or the central banks, used the same money flower in their presentations, which was really quite funny for the audience. But look, they're very boyish, they're bullish with the tech, but there is a lot of challenges around how do you reconcile privacy and AML and KYC? How do you do that if you're a central bank? But the conversations still were very finance focused. There was a lot of conversations around taxation, sustainable finance models, climate change. But I think when we think about where we were a year ago with the ICOs and all that sort of stuff, we're now having very mature, pragmatic conversations, which is nice to hear from an Australian perspective. Mind you, it was all Australians that coordinated that entire policy forum.
That's great. Excellent. Can I have a show of hands for people in the audience that trade cryptocurrency daily? Weekly? Monthly? Yearly? Never before. Okay, good. So we're in the trading. We're going to get to that trading very soon. But I want to ask Nuggets a burning question. I keep seeing it all over these Telegram groups, getting harassed, getting told off. There's these things out there called, which I've just learned, they're called Bitcoin maximalists. And I want to know what, and their position. Nuggets, tell me, what's all this about? Blockchain is a scam, Bitcoin's the only thing. I thought that Bitcoin was a blockchain, and then I'm getting a bit scared to be in these groups. I'm wondering whether I should leave or not. Can you give us an overview or your opinion, sir, please?
Yeah, it's always awkward in my position because I'm friends with everyone, and it's like having two children that don't get along a lot of the time. So I'm a big advocate that if you're getting started and those people that raise their hand and said they've never bought crypto before, you should buy Bitcoin as your first investment and learn from there, because as soon as you start going down the list, they start to get super risky. So if you're someone that gets into this a fair bit and you're really interested in a lot of things, then you can invest in some of the others, but you have to still treat them as play money. So for me personally, I think you should have the majority of your portfolio still in Bitcoin as that cornerstone. It's kind of become the blue chip of the crypto world, and I still think it's the king, and it doesn't look like it's going to get knocked off anytime soon. And then Ethereum, which we might get to later, I think that's got a 5-year head start on anything else as well. And that's always been our message. And maybe if you want to dabble in the smaller ones, put 0.5% or 1% of your crypto portfolio in them, because if you pick the right ones, they go up a lot. If they go down and projects are going to go broke because it's the tech world and it's startup landing, don't lose too much money. So that advice has held really true, particularly lately when altcoins have been struggling and Bitcoin has asserted its dominance. We go through these cycles. I think I've been through 6 of them now, where Bitcoin goes up and then the altcoins go up, and then the bad projects get washed out. And a lot of the traders, and it's a trading and speculative sort of dominated space, a lot of the traders, they rotate into the smaller coins and they pump them up and then they take profits and they end up with more Bitcoin. So it's all a big game that is dominated by traders at the moment. You have to be aware of that as well. But just the last few days, I think Ethereum's been really outperforming in a lot of the good altcoins. So I guess my answer would be, unless human psychology changes and the fear and greed at either end of the scale, then these cycles are 100% certainty in my mind that altcoins are going to outperform again, and then Bitcoin will have its time again. It just ebbs and flows.
Okay, great. Lasenka, I wanted to ask you a question about what you see the challenges are for the growth in the crypto and blockchain space ecosystem in Australia.
Sure thing, DJ. I guess I'll kind of take it. So I've been in this space for quite a few years, so I'll kind of try and summarise in a way that we've seen it from our perspective as independent observer. One of the biggest things that, one of the most important things that we need to bring people en masse into crypto is banking, and us as an exchange where what connect the fiat world, which is your AUD, USD, into the crypto of it. And that's probably been one of the biggest limitations of our business and most of our competitors in Australia. So I would say in our 6-7 year history, we've been debanked about 40 times. And as you can imagine, a business like ours, we have a lot of clients depositing a lot of funds, and then when a bank perceives that as too high of a risk, what they do is they shut the account down. And so that's been a huge bottleneck, and for us, one of the things, we've really tried to overcome that by doing a few things. It's working closely with regulators, being more open with how we onboard customers. But I could say in the last few years, this is something we've made huge gains in us as an industry, is that we've established a code of conduct, we're now regulated by Austrac, and more recently, us, more personally, Independent Reserve, we've actually done a partnership with a new bank, which means that these debankings and banking interruptions will be a thing of the past. So we'll actually have an end-to-end integration with the bank, which means that any customer of ours can essentially click a button through Independent Reserve and they'll get an account real time with this new bank. We'll announce this in a couple of weeks. And also... Which bank? I'll tell you soon, DJ, and everyone. And then on the other side... It's not one of these fancy online banks, is it? Where you can't even walk in the store. It is actually a digital bank. And also, those customers, they'll have real-time deposits 24/7, weekends, public holidays, which right now into crypto, which doesn't exist. So I think that was a huge stumbling block, and I think us as an industry and in our business, we've worked very hard to overcome that. One of the other things that was a burning question for a few years was taxation. Lack of clarity around how your crypto holdings and gains are taxed. I think the ATO have come around to it a bit more. We've reduced double taxation. And also we work closely with KPMG to do a partnership where our customers can press a button on their Independent Reserve environment and they get a tax analysis done by KPMG. And we did this because we had a lot of questions, particularly from SMSFs and funds and I guess slightly more sophisticated investors. So that's really helping with year-end audits and all this kind of stuff. Another thing I guess is there's been a general stigma, and I think we're all aware of it. Us as an industry in Australia, we're still at 1 to 2% adoption. When I say adoption, I mean anyone that holds an exchange account, a wallet, bought some crypto, this kind of thing. I think we're still in that 1 to 2% range. I think you guys would agree. So that stigma is still there, even amongst my friends in banking and finance. Some of these guys still talk about it as a crypto scam, but it's totally not true. This is totally becoming a legitimate asset class with legitimate businesses like all these guys around us. And I think we're slowly starting to bring the AFRs of the world and banking and finance into this world, and showing we're getting beyond that stigma, which I think is a great thing for everyone
So just tell me this. I know some senior people in some banks, and they work in the risk departments, and they keep telling me that it's AML and KYC that are the issues. It's debanking anyone to do with crypto. I thought you guys were doing exactly what banks do when they register their own accounts. Is that correct or not?
No, it's actually, I completely disagree. We do far more when onboarding our crypto clients because we have to understand their personalities, their driver's license, where they live, that sort of thing, but we also have to understand their on-chain behaviour. And if you have a look at our business independent reserve and some of our bigger competitors in Australia, they do a lot of on-chain analysis, which means that as well as, and we do much more to get to know where they live and their spending habits and all these kinds of things. So the maximalists might not be into this, but this is the kind of stuff that we have to do to scale the business. Get banking, get the regulators involved, and that's how you go from 1% to 5%. And that's a slow story.
Yep, good. Okay, Grant, you've just come back from Singapore visiting the Consensus Conference. Tell us what are the highlights. What have you noticed that was different up there compared to last time we were there?
Yeah, so I think we were there last year, had a very good time. I think the biggest thing this year is feeds back into exactly what Alex was saying, and what that was this year I had probably 10 meetings with people who have come out of high-end trading firms, and now they've set up Bitcoin infrastructure. The amount of infrastructure that's behind Bitcoin now from a speculative point of view is as good as anything else you see in any other financial market. The participants in it are super serious, and it's just going to drive it forward. So as those people drag other people in, we're going to see more and more adoption of it, and it's really good to see. It's going to help the space grow much faster than anything else. I think the other space was literally Singapore. That place, what they're doing around their regulation, what they're doing to promote it up there, the way they just embrace it is amazing. So Hong Kong's gone obviously the other way, and as we know with the macro troubles up there, the government troubles in Hong Kong, a lot of players in the Asian region are seeing Singapore as the answer. So I think we're going to benefit, very lucky being in Australia, from the growth of Singapore. I think Singapore will become the Asia crypto hub. Korea's to insular, Japan insular, whereas Singapore allows everyone to come and do business there.
Yeah.
Very cool, actually.
So you were seeing there was a lot of exchanges there that have been registered out of, the STO exchange has been registered out of Singapore. What's the impact of what's happening in Hong Kong at the moment?
Yeah, so I think in Hong Kong it's very difficult. So if you're an established crypto business in Hong Kong, the regulators come out and just crack down. So they've said no derivatives at all in Hong Kong. But the real extension of it is let's be honest. If that situation a week away went one way and the tank rolled into Hong Kong, well, that's it. That's the end of crypto in Hong Kong. I mean, it would go underground, it would boom in the underground economy, but crypto as a thing in Hong Kong would be dead there and then, because it would, by extension, have to follow Chinese law, which is obviously very restrictive against crypto. Internally, very positive for blockchain to track people's movements and track their wealth and know exactly what they're doing. But for anyone else attached to it externally, zero, you just do not. I mean, I think we've all heard stories of guys doing OTC trades. They cross the border from Hong Kong and go up into mainland China with shit tons of trezors and nanos in their pocket full of freaking tether and get RMB and then cross the border back. But that's what it will turn into. So I think it was a pretty interesting point.
You mentioned derivatives there. So let's talk a bit about the Australian market. I think there's 211 exchanges registered with AusTrack. I can rattle off about 8 that I know now that are operating. 9 with Mind Digital Exchange launching. Tell us, Grant, what's the differentiator for your exchange? And I did hear something about derivatives.
Yeah, so I think as Nugget and I were talking about the other day, so unfortunately we're going to get a crackdown here next year in Australia on the derivative side. So one of the things there that becomes interesting though is if you trade options, is the leverage can still maintain much better than what the regulator wants to crack down on to do essentially a lot of futures here on Bitcoin in Australia. So we currently are the only exchange in Australia that has a AFSL that allows us to offer derivatives to both retail and institutional users. So basically at the moment we're in a phase of launching the main order book exchange, and the second phase of that is then to launch a more derivatives-based offering here in Australia, and that will be on some type of lit venue, so an exchange type venue, and also then via chat, OTC, phone calls, and that will be for all types of users. That's not going to be limited to users of certain size.
Yeah, good. So, being from Crypto Sydney and being in love with decentralisation, tell me about DEXs. They were all the rage last year. Will you be working on something like that? And are they a threat?
So we saw Nash launch this year, which I guess will be the biggest DEX or Binance DEX obviously so far. I mean, it's interesting. So philosophically, I think a DEX will rule the world one day. I think you'll be able to trade any asset on it, and obviously that complete freedom is what I think a lot of people are looking for. At the moment, I'm not a technology expert, but there is definitely obviously significant challenges around the technology implementation of DEXs. We have been looking at a few different implementations globally. So a group out of South Africa who have built something with a pseudo DEX. We've been having a look at that, but at the moment for us, we very much want to, I guess, fall into the category of trying to do things in a regulated way, but also make it as easy as possible, I guess, for as many people to access it. But I still do think the biggest threat could be a massive DEX to everyone in the exchange business.
Yeah, good. Okay, how are we going for questions in the audience? Can we have a show of hands for anyone who has some questions?
I have one. For the guy in the blue jeans.
Hang on.
Yes,
Stand by. You're gonna have to use this microphone. Where is it?
Yeah, sure. I'll have
You awake, mate? You're having a sleep there, are you? There's an after party coming soon. You're going to get revved right up.
I'm resting up for it.
There's Red Bulls and all sorts of stuff on arrival. Here you go. Question.
What's the guy in the blue jeans?
Some guy in the blue jeans. There's two guys. Which one? The guy in the middle?
Yeah, the middle.
Lasanka.
Hey, the second is bank for gold.
Gold is a digital bank, but I can't say anymore. There are also other digital banks.
Yeah. So we know it's Volt, but he hasn't announced it yet. I didn't want to tell anyone that either. Okay, question here.
Thanks for the question.
Curious what your thoughts are on this proposed cash ban in Australia and how crypto might facilitate or block that philosophy.
So questions, anyone in particular?
I think a few of us can answer. A few of you can answer that one. I think it's a great topic.
So, we were called to a meeting with Treasury, essentially with all of the heads of risk of every bank, and us. We were there, and kind of the vibe around the crew was pretty much all the banks were largely confused, and everyone was kind of, I'm saying that the bank guys are kind of asking Treasury, why are you doing this, all this kind of stuff. And the answers that were coming weren't entirely clear. We asked why crypto is in this, has been included in the broader definition, and the answer was, we don't really care for banning crypto in this space. We don't care for it much, but it's much easier to remove it down the track if it were included in this broader definition. So I think this cash ban, I guess, it will happen. This will be forced through either as a standalone bill, or they'll kind of, shoehorn it into something else, and there'll be something like this. And crypto, hopefully, will be some years away. And of course, us as Independent Reserve, we're firmly against that, and we'll lobby and use our powers in this to kind of push that further back.
How'd you go with that Treasury meeting?
We have a lot of Treasury meetings these days, DJ, unfortunately. We spend too much stuff on the regulatory compliance business, and that's just the nature of how the industry's become, and that's a nature of trying to scale this business to beyond what it is.
Good. Questions? Do it. not that fit tonight.
We created a crypto coin, right? The company I belong to. So we're gonna include this crypto coin in the IEO, and we were wondering what is the best strategy to do the marketing of a cryptocurrency. We have a project which is gonna back it up. So what is the best strategy in terms of like spread and to deliver a message with a cryptocurrency?
I mean, it's got harder and harder, and I actually believe that that's kind of the thing of the past. Like we saw an ICO boom and we saw an IEO boom, and there's so many ideas that have been just bashed to death, and how many things need blockchain. Retail investors are all lost money on 99% of these things they invested in. So I just kind of think that that's not a path that I'd go down. Or, as YouTubers, we get offers every day, thousands of dollars to cover these things, and there's people that still do that, but that's not something that we've ever done. And it's very hard. So why are you marketing it to? Who's your audience? Who's going to actually use this? If you can't justify to me why you can't use Bitcoin or Litecoin as your in-app currency, why do you need your own coin? What's going to make it go up in value? Have you had an economist look at the tokenomics? People have become very skeptical of these things, and I think it's a really hard job. So unless you've got like a really home run thing, a really good idea, then I don't know who or why you're marketing in the first place. I think.
So I guess a very simple thing is maybe get people to use it, show use case. It's probably the slow, old school way, but if it's a project you believe in, there's a real use case, get people using it.
Build it, they will come. Okay, cool. Great that you mentioned IEO, because I just wanted to cut in here. Exchanges, academies, incubating IEOs. Are we looking at that at all amongst you two exchange legends?
From an IEO point of view, no. I don't think it's, to be honest, so I've been on the, I would say I was a shotgun investor and have been for quite a while in this space. So I reckon I ran the game probably like the fella here next to me of a lot of shit. And we had a great experience on an IEO recently, like where, a exchange quote goes out and goes, we filled $1 million on the day and bring up the project. Like what they really feel, $48. Then the next day they just said they filled another $1 million. And what did you feel? 12. And then the next day they got to like 300 and they said they'd sold $3 million in 3 hours. And the project had raised $372. I think there will still be great, really solid projects. We'll still be able to go down the IEO/equity path, which is obviously what you're seeing a lot of. So you see where you get, you take an equity stake in a company and you might issue some tokens at a point in time, but you also keep that equity stake in the company as well. So from that point of view, we're not that super keen to participate in the IEO space. From an incubator space, again, not particularly our background, but there's at the moment I can say that we're invested in 5 Australian projects that are all probably in the seed startup phase, and that's those things are just things that we found actually not to do with being an exchange, where introductions made through other people saying, this is an interesting project, look at this, meet these guys, they might have something funky or something cool to do. So
not a lot of your competitors have listed more than the top, basket, 6 or 7. I think Lasenka has listed 1 Aussie project. So Grant, did you mention to me that you will take a broader range of shitcoins? For those Bitcoin maximalists here?
So basically the concept is we're going to do, a secondary exchange that will focus on anything outside the top 5 and maybe down to 75 on CMC. Basically the main criteria there will be is how many Australians are into it or how much is our community into it. Right. So a good example of that is Ravencoin. So it's a POW chain, very, very popular in Australia. The first coins mined of Raven were by Australians. So that's something that we're going to.
There's that holder.
Yeah.
He's got his Raven shirt on. Yeah, we know a few Ravens.
Yeah,
so okay.
That's the concept. Is, you try and find that's popular in the community.
Does that mean if I've got an Aussie project that has a token, utility token, then I should come and see you?
Definitely, as long as you can. I think the other day I was speaking to yourself and Karen about this, and it was about that. As long as you can demonstrate that you've got real people wanting to use it, I think it comes back to what's Angus' point. If you've got a use case for it, people out there wanting to use it, I'm getting, I'm meeting people on the street, I'm meeting other traders, I'm seeing other chat rooms where it's getting referenced and things like that. So a good example, Loki. That's going to be a tough one for us, but that's a fucking fantastic project. Because it's got the privacy element in it, but that's a great example of an Australian project.
Yeah, great. No, we won't go there. We'll go there when we go to the laneway. That's probably a better place for that question, but it's in my mind, so you guys don't know what I'm talking about. But nuggets, let's get a question from you. How do you reckon Bitcoin's going to track in a stock market crash?
Yeah, funny you asked me that scripted question, David, but
Hey, Ben told me to ask you that.
yeah, so I know people don't like hearing this, but in a stock market crash scenario, I don't think Bitcoin's going to do very well. The same as in the GFC, we saw gold sell off really hard because the market's all leveraged up. When people start getting margin calls and they have to sell everything and it's this sort of protection phase, then I think Bitcoin as a speculative asset is probably not going to do that well. What I do see Bitcoin doing really well in is the kind of the slow decline, or what we're seeing at the moment is central banks begin that easing. So the ECB just started QE again, and they took interest rates more negative, and it was almost like, hey, this is just completely normal. And I think they're paving the way for it to happen in other countries, and once it happens in the US, Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. And I think in Australia, they're going to have no choice but to do it as well once all central banks get into the negative and start buying bonds. So in that scenario, I don't think it really matters if the stock market's going up or drifting lower. It's once people wake up to what is going on around them and they start to learn that their bank is now at negative interest rate and they're getting fines, and they can say, well, hold on, well, what's happening here? And at that stage, they've got 10 friends that understand Bitcoin or gold or whatever it is. And there's a lot of off-ramps now, there's more exchanges, there's phone apps. It's so easy for people to rotate their money or their investments into something that's outside the system, and that's when I see the market cap of gold and Bitcoin and those assets really swelling.
Great. Katrina, I know that you were late, but we still have questions for you. We might get you on stage later. But we were talking to Caleb earlier about his startup and about raising funds, about the challenges he's had. You were one of the early Australians to start a blockchain business. Can you just tell us about how it's going, what challenges you've had? I think there's a few people in the audience that have got startups as well. Thank you.
We are an unusual startup in the fact that we got our first customer before we founded our company. I think what the core message here is that if you're not solving a real problem that the market is asking you to solve, then you have no startup, regardless of whether you're blockchain or a SaaS company. And I think in the early days, we went and found a real problem. I come from government, so I worked in the government for a very long time, and I was always playing around with tech trying to solve problems. It's a long story, a lot of people who know me know my story, but the challenge is that you need to secure revenue to get market validation and get use cases, so therefore you can get trust from the customers. We're working with a very emerging technology, and you find that mostly markets want perfect solutions. This is not a perfect solution. It requires endurance, and it requires people that have a lot of patience while we explore how this technology is really going to be used. So we started 3 years ago, so we're about to have our third birthday. But I would say that the financial year 18-19 was shit. And it was shit for a lot of reasons, and customers weren't buying. If you've got no revenue, you have no company. It's regardless of you being a tech company or a retail company. You have to have customers, you have to have sales, you have to have revenue, you have to have a very good revenue proposition. And I think that was what was getting lost during the ICO boom, is that nobody had they weren't backed assets. They were just somebody's idea and decided they wanted to make a lot of money. And that caused a lot of problems for us as real blockchain companies, because we were tarnished with that same same journey, so we spend a lot of time re-educating the community. So I used to go into meetings and I used to say, you need to learn everything, unlearn everything that you believe blockchain technology is to be. But where we are now is we're starting to see a change in the industry. We've got some new clients. We're starting to see opportunity. As mentioned, I just returned from overseas and happened to have a very important conversation on Friday and learnt that the ACCC is going to do an inquiry into Murray-Darling water markets. Now, why am I excited about that? It's because we trade water on blockchain technology. This is an opportunity for us to finally showcase in a legitimate environment why blockchain technology can help us solve market problems. Whereas now it's going to be legitimately in the heart of a very, very important inquiry. But I guess it's the same thing. Unless you actually have market validation, solving a real problem, have customers, those are the core elements for running the company. And it's the same with Caleb. We were very fortunate that we did secure a government grant way back in 2016 on the back of solving water. But apart from that, we've been a revenue generating company. We had to pay tax in our first year.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's just crazy. It's crazy, but it is hard. And like, I work 80 hours a week. I really work hard. I have to do almost everything. I do from sprint planning to writing user stories to writing, doing my website to having high-level meetings. It's not easy, this world, and if you want to jump into blockchain, you've got to be really passionate at solving a real problem that people want you to solve.
Now, any questions from the audience? There's one down here. There's one. That's better. That's what I like. Okay. I just want to ask one quick one because I never get time to sit in front of a PC or a laptop. In fact, I don't really know what one is. So I want to ask you two gentlemen that have exchanges. I saw CoinChart just recently updated their iOS app. Lasanke, are you going to build one for us or not? Grant, have you got one on the roadmap?
Definitely something in the pipeline. With probably close to half of our customers now interacting with our website through apps. So this is in the pipeline for us, as well as quite a few other features.
Yeah, mate, hopefully we'll have it by Q4.
Check 1, 2. You heard it here first. Well done. Question down the front here. Is that my question you're asking, or is it yours? No. Is it? Are you sure? Just a quick one. Can you solve the energy crisis in Australia? Okay, there was another question over here. Just to save.
Yeah, just quickly for Grant and Nugget. I haven't heard anyone mention BACT tonight. Is that a real deal, or just a lot of noise? Is it a trigger for a bull run, or what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, so they opened up the depository the other day, so that's so BACT is now taking in Bitcoins to, obviously it's a physically settled future, so basically they have to take in a number of Bitcoin to make the contract viable. It's definitely a unique aspect of it. When the CME future first launched, it got blamed for the big dump that we saw, so a lot of physical holders would not be able to exit their Bitcoin. So essentially the theory was that they were using the CME future, driving that down, it was cash settled, and then they still had their coins and they made their money from being short and got paid US dollars. The concept around BACT is that that's supposed to stop that behaviour because you actually then have to settle your position at the end of it in physical. I think the big thing with BACT is because it is a potential physical, well, it is a physical thing, and if it gets tied into, say, a Fidelity type custodial solution, I think it definitely starts to drive big investors into Bitcoin potentially.
Yeah, I mean, when I said before that we made a video every day during crypto winter, people say, what on earth are we talking about? And what we were talking about was all the infrastructure that was being built behind the scenes. And they're also owned by the media companies and you work up the chain. So what's happening is they've planted their seeds, and we had a phone call from eToro the other day, and all these big boys that are now able to make money off this space are going to ramp it up. And once they've got backed all the ETF, then they start advertising. We've seen big soccer companies this week have Bitcoins advertising. Like the next bubble is going to be so big, and it's all those people that can now buy some in their ETF for their retirement fund. Because at the moment, if you're itching to buy Bitcoin in the US, you can still buy it on Coinbase with the app. It's not that hard. So it's not going to be a huge price run up on the day the back opens that people are expecting. But over time, yeah, it's just another easy on ramp.
And Grant's wearing Bitcoin socks, so we're definitely in a bull run. Another one. Really? How long is it?
It's not the question that's long, but maybe the answer. This is from the Senko. Just what's your criteria for listing coins? Obviously, there's thousands of them out there, and like Nugget said earlier, there's probably some gems that are now around that, maybe in the 100 to 120 mark. And yeah, they're obviously not independent reserves.
So generally it's user demand. So the only time we ever look at a token is when when a whole bunch of customers ask for it. And then we kind of see if it aligns with, I guess, how we, our philosophy around crypto and decentralized business. And then I guess if it's a newer project, it really depends on. We have to make a judgment call on the people that are trying to build the project. The kinds of things they want to turn the business out. These are generally the things, but it's usually a mix.
Was that the third question?
You should. I mean, this is. You totally should. I mean, customers ask us to list projects. Otherwise,
which coin's this?
I was just looking at Kyber over the last couple of weeks. The other one was Fetch and artificial intelligence. But I mean, they're still very early days and risky ones.
I thought you were going to say Algorand then, but.
I mean, Fetch is an interesting one. I mean, I think from the tech point of view, a lot of people would say it's super expensive, slow Google Maps. So, I'll have to see how that works out. But I mean, to be honest, it looked like it had an absolute all-star team. So it's very strongly backed out of Cambridge, I believe, in the UK, by some really top minds in computer science. But and obviously they had they were the first IO, was second, on Binance Launchpad, and sort of justified the whole model and the rest of it. So sort of still got that I guess what you say, residual support behind it.
But in summary, I would say just ask the guys, if we don't hear about new projects we're listed, we generally look at what most of our customers want, and most of our customers want a better user experience around what they trade most, and that's Bitcoin, like tax solutions, insurance, like better
mobile app,
better connectivity.
Maybe even an EFTPOS card so I can spend it at Caleb's retail outlets.
All these kinds.
Please.
But just generally, and a comment on the IO thing as well, I would say the Australian market is probably a little bit behind a couple of other jurisdictions, which means that we're just catching up to buying our first Bitcoin. Like this is the broad market situation. So for that, we won't see ourselves listing too many coins far down the list, because it just it might be one customer that wants it, but we've outlaid 3 weeks of dev time, taking a whole bunch of risks and setting up our cold storage, all this kind of stuff. So the IEO is probably off our type of pipeline for the time being to the Australian market.
Yeah, good. Hey, I saw Horby were looking to do a backdoor listing in Hong Kong. Good way to raise funds. What's happening there? Would you consider it, Grant?
Would we consider a backdoor listing? No. So we
front door.
So we're not raising money. We haven't raised money since 2013, and I'm envious of you, Caleb, having to raise money like 2 or 3 years ago when we were doing it in 2012, when everyone thought anyone that knew Bitcoin thought it was something illicit buying for literally. So I was taking around an IM to raise money for an apparent reserve, and people thought we were building a black market for drugs. That's where the market was. The market's come along.
You pivoted then, did you?
No, we didn't. We've never pivoted. We've stayed true to the vision. For us, the listing is probably in the next 1 to 2 years, but there are a whole bunch of things that we need to put in place, like completing our audit with PwC, getting our kind of governance structures right, and a whole bunch of stuff. But we wouldn't do it for the cash. We'd kind of do it to, just kind of as a.
So it'd be an awesome thing for the industry. Would that be wrong or right?
I think it would be.
Yeah.
I think having, I guess, us as a business, if we were to be listed, for the people that aren't buying crypto, I think we'd almost be a bellwether for buying crypto, Like that they can buy it through CBA and all that kind of stuff.
So
actually, on that point, I've just remembered something. we did a partnership with Iris, so we have a pricing integration with Iris. So any one of you guys that are buying stocks, you know, if you're looking up your BHP shares, if you look up Bitcoin, that pricing actually comes to you in return. Hopefully the next year.
What margin you got on that, mate? Oh, no.
Hopefully next year we turn that into execution.
Yeah. Well done.
I think that's interesting though, DJ. I mean, what Lasanga said, I mean, there is a listed Aussie equivalent, that was Digital X, right?
Yeah.
Obviously,
but it's,
yeah. You know,
so the ASX is hot to trot on anything to do with crypto and holding off on anyone that is transacting in a crypto business. They are still on watch if you are an investment fund, but like how is the ASX going to think, okay, cool, these guys are selling Bitcoin to people that are going to go and buy drugs?
Quickly, there was a little Aussie company called Blockchain Global, and they tried to list in like 2013, and we'd already put in money. Like I was one of the initial investors, and that would have been like 100,000x return by now. And they were mining Bitcoin back then, and it got to the last stage, and the ASX just said, "No, you know, Bitcoin, I'm not going to list it." So hopefully they've grown up a bit, and they're going to let something at least put up Digital X, but. Yeah.
But what do you reckon, Lasanga? I mean, I'm not saying you're in talks or conversations with them. We don't need to hear all the insights, but
I know.
Is it 2 years or is it 10 years?
It's not 10 years. It's probably going to happen within 2 years. But what the ASX are looking for, I guess, real substance, real governance. You know, they're getting comfortable with the idea that, you know, one, this crypto thing isn't going away, and that's becoming more and more obvious because there are big companies like Lloyd's of London that are now insuring in this space.
And Aon.
And Aon, you know, these guys are like insuring our cold storage now. Big companies like KPMG, PwC are working in this industry. You know, Iris has come to the party. So the ASX is aware that this is now a legitimate asset class and it isn't going away. Now, the next thing they'll need is you know, things like audits to be in place, and then people. So
well, there's 200 people here on a rainy Tuesday night in Brisbane. Come on.
But also people with, you know, real substance and track record in corporate governance and running big companies.
Yeah.
So I think then the picture will be complete for the ASX. In Australia, I think we're getting closer. So I'd say within 2 years, probably the ASX will be opening to listing, you know, a well-governed Australian company in the crypto space.
That's great. Excellent. Lucas, you had a question.
Lucas has always got a question.
Lucas, you had a question.
He actually asked me a question earlier today. It's like, man,
just say it.
Just say it last time.
No, there was a question. Oh, it was here. Sorry. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
This question is for Grant. Look, you mentioned some of the differentiators before against other Aussie exchanges. My question is two-part. What are the differentiators against the big boys? You did Finex, Bitbanks, Finance, and when are you going to provide those professional order functionalities that traders look for?
Yeah.
Take profit, stop loss, add order entry, and those sort of things.
I think that's a pretty fair question. I mean, against the big boys, we're pretty pragmatic to say that how we would position ourselves against the big boys is definitely on fees. So we're going to launch on a 10 bips, 20 bips, make a take up flat. So that's regardless of volume. And then we will be introducing a tiered volume system as we go forward. On liquidity, on US dollar liquidity, we would like to think that we're going to definitely rank in that top 10 to 15 pretty much. Maybe if not off the bat, but very quickly off that. But then how does that position us in the Australian space? The fact that I guess we'll be able to take in your Aussie dollars, your US dollars, instead of having to send that off to Finex, sending it off to Kraken, etc. offshore. That'll be here warehoused in Australian banks. So from that point of view, I think that's going to be a core offering. And then, you know, pair that with the insured custody offering is sort of what we see as a major thing for us to be able to offer to the Australian user versus the real employees. Order types is actually, I think, is a really good question on that. And it's something that, you know, I think we are definitely, again, not going to have as many advanced order types as I would like from the start. It is something we're looking at to potentially solve from 2 points of view, whether or not to make it native to the exchange, and or we are working with several other platform providers on call at the moment. So a very good friend of mine recently has built out a BitMEX API compliant front end that's quite advanced. So potentially we're looking at for certain users to be able to offer them access to that front end, which will have those, that will have more of those advanced order types.
Yeah, I've just one question up here. He's had his hand up for a couple of hours now. Sorry, mate.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening, gentlemen, and Katrina. We've heard a lot of people talk about education tonight, and as a co-founder of an educational blockchain company, could you talk about what you're trying to do to educate the public, and if you know of any government initiatives to try and explain what cryptocurrency is? I mean, it's fun in a room like this to joke about shitcoins and drugs and all that exciting stuff, but the unfortunate thing is that's what the general public kind of thinks of this space in some respects, and I wonder if the government spends so much money making sure we wear seatbelts, if they're doing anything to kind of make it easier for you. Big shout out to you, Nuggets, doing a great job with the education. Maybe you could just talk about the interaction between the government and your businesses in relation to trying to teach the public that you're not scammers.
Sure. So we wrote a book. Our founding partner, Adam Temple, wrote a book called The People's Money. It's available in hard copy and also soft copy on our website, independentreserve.com/education. What's that? Ashes in the blockchain. Yes, it's a great book. So there's we've written a book that's on our website, but also we've opened up a 200 square metre area in our office. I've called it IR Ventures, and it's it's open for people doing presentations and hosting events. I think some of your fellow Brisbane friends, I think Caleb and Alex Vetsky were in our office a few weeks ago, talking a bit about Bitcoin and blockchain. We're hosting events all the time, and it's part of our educational push as well.
Blockchain Australia and ADCA have just merged, and I know they want to get more active in doing regular meetups in each city, and there's always something happening, particularly in the bull market, it'll get really popular again. But we've got our free courses, and there's dozens of modules there now to send your friends to with the really basic stuff, and we were sort of missing that for a long time. So hopefully between that free resource, we've got hundreds of videos and playlists. But it's still hard for the average person that knows nothing. A lot of people want to touch and feel it and go to a meetup or learn one-on-one scenarios. So, all that stuff has really matured now. Government is starting to invest more in education. We've got the guys from Blockchain Collective that have got the diploma in applied blockchain. We've had heaps of people do that. So it's all getting there. It's just a bit slow because a lot of people thought it was a bubble and it was dead, and only now government and those right people realising that this is real.
Also, I just remembered something. We submitted a course to the Financial Planners Association to educate and advise on blockchain, what blockchain is, because we've found a lot of financial planners clients are kind of leading them toward asking them questions that they're not able to answer. So hopefully that course gets approved. It'll be with CBD boys.
Trouble by Bit, with Trouble by Bit, we got funding from the government, and part of that funding was to help education in the blockchain space. That's why you would see, even later on tonight, when we go down to the Bitcoin lending that we've just launched, there are a dozen merchants there taking payments in Bitcoin now. And that's the first step in helping people download a wallet, get some Bitcoin, and transacting in some Bitcoin to understand how the blockchain works. So Trouble by Bit's pretty much in that space of trying to make it real for people, trying to show people that you can actually buy things on the blockchain and how a blockchain transaction works. We're very thankful for Advanced Queensland's grant funding that has enabled that to happen as well.
Yeah, just on that, I think these catch-ups, which obviously this man has helped pioneer, have been huge. So he's introduced me to, I think out of Sydney alone, maybe helped about 10 people, and they literally turn up and they're like, here's my ledger, I've got some coins here, what can I do with it? And it's just literally sitting down with for an hour showing them how to move it around, starting with a small amount of money. I think again, I think all, especially us up here, but I think for most people here, self-education is always going to be the first way to come at something like this. I'd always recommend anyone to start with a small amount of money, because yes, you can fuck it up, and yes, you can't get those coins back. So, start with a test trade. And so many people have not done that before, but other than that, I think these types of community events where people actually turn up and can actually feel and touch you, you can actually have a conversation afterwards and people can ask those questions is really vital.
And that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, like, it's testament to all these people here on this stage, but especially Lysenko and Grant have coughed up a bit of money to put on the beer and food in the venue and get us around the country over the next few months. It's testament to these guys that they're spending their exchanges money on educating the public. We all know we're at the beginning of the wave. We're in year 1 or 2 of a 20-year journey. So this is what it was like in 1998 when I started out recruiting in Web 1.0, right? Where all of these meetings, you had the best of the best minds in the crowd and on stage, and it was amazing. So I think that's where we're at, and I just want to say a big thanks to these guys. I think tonight, for events that I've run, so tonight, well actually not tonight, because tomorrow night we're in Melbourne with 220 RSVPs, and Thursday night we're back in Sydney with 180. But Crypto Sydney will have broken 3,000 unique people over 2 years that have come to our events to learn about blockchain, crypto, trading, startups. We're all trying to do it, and as Nugget said, Blockchain Australia is right behind it as well. And you'll hear more about us as we make noise. But we really want all you guys to sign up as our individual members. I think it's $79.99, but you can check it out on the website. We've got your email addresses, so we're going to track you down. Don't worry about that.
Awesome. Congratulations, DJ. Well done.
Yeah.
Very, very good. Great effort.
Thank you. Okay, so we might just go for another 10 minutes. We've got a couple more burning questions and we'll just get those ones done. So 1, 2, 3 questions also, and then we'll head across the road for the party where the real conversations happen. Thank you.
Okay, well I have 10 questions, and it goes back to when you were talking and then everyone went over, but I just had this kind of little idea when you were talking about testing. And our exchanges, there's so many exchanges, there's so many wallets, there's so much choice. So as new people coming into the space, it's very, very overwhelming. But we don't give them an opportunity to test it. Have exchanges thought about doing something where you can have a demo account, where you can go and buy cryptocurrency, you can transfer it to a wallet. Obviously it's not real currency, but just for them to get comfortable with the process.
Yeah.
Sign up tonight, $25 free trade.
Yep.
Okay, well, maybe that question is answered.
Sorry.
No, that's all.
But anyways, that just came to me, but originally my question was more about the educational space, and where I'm coming in is that I see that there's a massive gap in between the everyday people and this space in this room that I'm in, and I see an opportunity to help educate those people in layman's terms, because I just went to a Bitcoin Cash conference and my head hurt when I left it today. So people, they know that it's coming, they don't understand that there's a difference between cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And I say, oh, that's the blockchain technology that's in behind it. How do they decipher every blockchain, every cryptocurrency is telling me that they're solving a problem? How do I tell them with it to make an educated decision? There's so many.
It is true. I mean, this is the biggest.
I think you're on. Oh, here. Do you want to use this one? Well, this is mine, though. Have you? Okay. I'll take this one. You want this one back? One works. Do you want this one? Yeah, that one. Sorry.
That's one of the questions that we get asked all the time. Where do you start? Where do you start? It is the right thing about coming to a meetup. Like Lucas Cullen over there, who's sitting over there, he started his first meetup in 2013 for the very purpose of educating. But it does get overwhelming because there are so many different exchanges and what to do. I think the work of these guys up here, and also the work of the Australian Digital Commerce Association, which is now Blockchain Australia, is that we spent many years accrediting the good work, like finding the good exchanges, ensuring that they're accredited. So if you're looking where to start, then find the accredited exchanges and go from there. Join a meetup, so forth like that. But there is also enough work, there's enough stuff on, I guess, YouTube, things like that. overwhelming, but at the end of the day, as we are responsible for, is that we need to move the technology to the back and just create a great user experience. That's our ambition. It's just very early, difficult at the moment, because especially blockchain, because it's still emerging. But that's where our aims is that you should not know that you're using blockchain, ultimately. It should sit in the background. It should be just having an amazing user experience and know that it's trusted data.
So, 2 questions to go. Where was that?
So I might just answer that also. So we just rolled out like instant account setup. You can, try it with a small deposit. It'll be very quick, but then there'll be a slight. So you can try it out. With a small deposit.
It's not really for me.
I understand. Yeah.
You should have a chat to this man over here. He started Australia's first diploma in blockchain. Applied blockchain. Sorry. Just had a mental blank there.
Yeah, so that's kind of accounts available. We just kind of rolled that out the last couple of weeks. So you can set up really quickly, deposit small amount, and try it out.
Okay, good. Taylor's getting itchy feet. So second last question, please.
Hey, this is a question for Almeida Independent Reserve. Blockchain.
It's quite young, actually.
Blockchain and cryptocurrencies is about decentralization, transparency, and especially sovereignty of funds, knowing that if only you have the private key, only you can sort of transfer those tokens and stuff like that. So why should the blockchain community continue to use centralized exchanges that are inherently private, centralized, and force crypto users to go up also sovereignty of their cryptocurrencies in order to trade on those platforms? And can you really say that healthy for the network going forward compared to decentralized exchanges and other methods of on-ramping like that?
So I guess Tex is philosophically great and decentralized and all that kind of stuff, but we are an old world business. We're a centralized business, owned by a handful of people, but we're that gateway in, essentially. I mean, you don't have to use us, but right now, at this point, we've enabled 120,000 people to get in and out of the space in a secure way. Once you're in, you're away. So hopefully in the future, you don't need a business that's centralized like ours, but I guess right now, this is where we're at. This is the way this whole
good answer. And the last question, who was answering? Have you asked one already?
No.
Oh, yeah.
First time.
No, I was just checking. Didn't know whether you were awake yet.
Yeah. Hey, this one's for Caleb. Love what you're doing with the travel by bit. Getting paid in Bitcoin for booking flights and whatnot. Have you thought about expanding into other things similar to Try Lolly? Because that is killing it. And if I could buy my groceries at Woolies and get a hot chicken and get rewarded with Bitcoin, I'd be pretty fucking happy.
Is it a hot chicken?
Actually, just on that point, we do have a founder here from Bitcoin Rewards. He does have a supermarket chain, I believe, and you can shop on Bitcoin Rewards and get some Bitcoin back. So you can actually buy a hot chicken and get some Bitcoin. So there's a lot of products out there. I just want to say, I'm encouraging every one of you to try the different products out there, Bitcoin Rewards. I think I'm quite keen to go to the laneway, where there's a few other founders that will talk a little bit more about their projects. And we'll get them all on stage, yeah?
Yeah, beautiful. And we've got a few lucky door prizes to give away as well. There's free drinks there, and there's free food. And $25 worth of free Bitcoin from Lysenko. And are you putting the card behind the bar as well?
We'll see. Maybe you took my
Yeah. So I'd need at least 50 people coming to get this card behind the bar, because when the card goes behind the bar, it's a good night. So can we have a show of hands who's coming to the laneway? Awesome. Nuggets is going to be on stage, so I want you to all ask questions from Nuggets when we get there. But just a quick one, big round of applause for all of yourselves for coming. It's been a great night. I can't wait to see you in the laneway. And well done, Caleb.